He is in the building, like Elvis. We're now going to hear from the Senate Majority Leader, U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer.
I just told Warren and Cynthia's family that I just love that lady. Who didn't? Who didn't? I want to take a moment to acknowledge Cynthia's family, her brothers, Warren and Ed, her sisters-in-law, Nan, Meg, Mary, so many nieces and nephews, and other grandnieces, grandnephews, John, who came here. I also want to, this church is full, it's not a surprise. I want to acknowledge Cynthia's many friends, her colleagues, her fellow advocates, fellow fighters for a better city, nation, country, and world who are gathered here today. And I offer my deepest and most heartfelt condolences on Cynthia's passing to all of you. What a shock it was to all of us. Somebody so vibrant, so engaged, so alive, so active in this community, suddenly, like that, gone. I wasn't sure I'd be able to be here in person today, but came up after we dealt with the shutdown mess caused by those MAGA Republicans. I think Jerry is here on his way dealing with it in the House as we did in the Senate. And I'm happy to say that we kept the government funded while reversing every single one of the extreme 30% cuts and vicious poison pill riders, anti-women, anti-gay, anti-LGBTQ riders they put in there and they proposed. After trying to take our government hostage, Republicans won nothing. Nothing. But they still caused plenty of trouble with their antics, and I am sure Cynthia is looking down now and shaking her head at this manufactured crisis caused by the political cravenness and fickleness and incompetence, the mean selfishness that she opposed every single day of her life in whatever activity she undertook. As was mentioned, Cynthia was born in the political arena. Her parents, Ethan and Beatrice, were active in Democratic politics in Philadelphia. Cynthia wasted no time following their example, became a Girl Scout, co-chaired the Racial Justice Committee at college, leading her fellow students to Washington to protest the Vietnam War. That's how I got started in politics too, and we would exchange reminiscences about that picketing and protesting and the people we actually lost in Vietnam. She knew and I knew. We both shared that college activity. I wouldn't call it extracurricular because it was a passion for her and for me. And how lucky we are, we in New York, sorry Pennsylvanians, that after graduating college, this bright young woman with a passion for life found her way to New York City. She was a person of so many interests. She played field hockey growing up. She was a member of the school orchestra. As mentioned, she was interested in community farming and birding. Professionally speaking, she had a lengthy and very illustrious career as a costume and set designer that took her all across the world and worked on major film sets and theater productions on Broadway and Lincoln Center, at the Kennedy Center down in D.C. Cynthia could have remained focused on her career, and nobody could have begrudged her a thing. But when Cynthia was confronted so directly and personally by the deadliness of the HIV/AIDS crisis, she committed herself to public service. Isn't that Cynthia? She had a great career with all these plaudits, but when she saw the suffering and callousness of our society, when it came to those who had HIV/AIDS, she knew she had to do everything she could, including giving up a career to do it. And as we all know, when she was committed to something, she put every fiber of her being into it. She worked for elected officials, ran for office herself, was a district leader for the 69th Assembly District since 1963? Sorry, 1993? They're both a very long time ago these days. And was a deputy clerk at the Board of Elections. She campaigned and got out the vote for local and statewide candidates, myself included. She was active in more community organizations, block associations, preservation societies, sanitation coalitions than anyone could ever count. I was privileged to meet Cynthia years ago. I was running against Al D'Amato. No one thought I could beat him. And I met this woman at 3 parks. By the way, it took me years, and she would coach me to remember what were the 3 parks. There was Central and Riverside, but then there was some other park. I forgot. Strauss up there, and she would always laugh that I could never remember the 3rd park. But the minute I met her, I saw I was facing an uphill fight, and she came to encourage me. And the empathy, but more than anything, the bottomless, quiet, but deep strength she had when she talked to you. You knew it came right from the heart, and you knew she had thought it through. And she really, every time I came to 3 parks or another event, and she'd come over to me and encourage me and say, "We're going to beat this son of a gun," it gave me strength. And she did that not just for me, but for thousands of people in different walks of life. So many years later, all of us can say without question, the Upper West Side, all of New York City are better places thanks to her decades of tireless work. She left a mark that will last long after she's gone. What better legacy can there be? In the Senate this week, we're mourning the passing of another powerful woman who left her mark and broke ceilings, Dianne Feinstein. I don't know if Dianne and Cynthia ever crossed paths, but I do know that they were kindred spirits. Strong women at a time, we still have that time, when women are not treated equally, who never took no for an answer when the question was how to improve the world around them by fixing hard and complicated problems. They shared that in common. I'm sure they're already a duo to be reckoned with in the afterlife, probably at some community meeting somewhere in heaven, pestering some poor soul to fix a broken traffic light. I'll miss seeing Cynthia at the 3 parks and other community meetings, but I know her spirit will reside in every person and street block of this community. So let us all honor Cynthia's memory by continuing to fight for the progressive principles she defended her entire life, safeguarding the rights and dignity of the downtrodden and least privileged, making sure the wealthy pay their fair share so we can invest in healthcare and housing, transit, and parks, and so many other public goods, protecting our environment against the ravages of climate change, defending our very democracy against those who seek to restrict the right to vote, undermine our electoral system, and try to turn our country into an authoritarian place. We face so many challenges in Cynthia's absence, but with her example, guiding and inspiring, there is nothing we cannot achieve. Thank you. God bless her memory.
Thank you, Senator. We were going through some of Cynthia's things, and it turns out that we found a plaque that we had meant to give to you in 2021 when we honored you for your service. It stayed in her apartment. Apparently, I think she was responsible for sending it to you, and that might have gone overlooked. I just want to briefly say the sentences to honor Chuck Schumer in recognition for his leadership in restoring democratic control and sanity in the United States Senate. I think that is still true 2 years later. Thank you, Senator, and this is for you. Thank you. We're now going to hear from Gerald Nadler, Congressman for the Upper West Side.
No, it's fine up here. Good afternoon. I'm so pleased to be with all of you in person. As you know, the extremist MAGA Republicans were threatening to shut down the government if we didn't bow to their demands. And there was a very good chance that they would have shut the government down and forced me to remain in Washington. I was nearly certain that I wouldn't be able to make it here today, so I made a film whatever they call it these days, electronically presentation for you, but perhaps due to some divine intervention, perhaps by Cynthia, McCarthy put a bipartisan bill on the floor that the majority of Democrats and Republicans could support, and we were able to avert a government shutdown. Cynthia would have loved all the drama of the last few days. And maybe, just maybe, she was pulling strings from above to ensure that the government stayed open, and we could all be here together to celebrate her life in person. If that was you, Cynthia, then thank you. Cynthia was a tireless advocate for the many causes she believed in, a true leader in democratic politics who fought for peace, equality, social justice, and so much more. Cynthia's lifetime of service to our community here on the Upper West Side has left behind a legacy that we should all aspire and live up to. I'm pleased to share that I've submitted the following remarks to the congressional record so that Cynthia will always be remembered. I first met Cynthia over 30 years ago working in local Democratic politics. I worked alongside her former boss, Assemblymember Ed Sullivan, in the New York State Assembly. Cynthia served 9 years as his legislative associate and special assistant. In Albany, she drafted legislation and negotiated budgets. In the district, she advocated on behalf of thousands of constituents to protect their housing and deliver needed services. Cynthia was a major force in the Three Parks Independent Democrats political club and served as its president and as district leader. Cynthia was kind, honest, and skilled at her position, and was both respected and beloved within the community. She was extremely reliable. If she said she was going to get something done, it would always get done. And she was a gracious host to me and others who visited her club frequently. Under her leadership, the club members were very active in gathering petition signatures and mobilizing the vote in our area for countless elected officials at all levels of politics, from district leader to congressman, Charlie Rangel, myself, Adriano Espaillat, senator, and president. Cynthia and her club did the work to help get Democrats elected across the country, not just in New York, and organized bus trips to Connecticut and Pennsylvania to get out the votes. She ran phone banks that reached voters across the country and was always finding ways for volunteers to get involved and fight for causes they believed in. She was my guest at both inaugurations of President Obama and subsequently attended marches and protests on the National Mall in Washington. She opposed the war in Iraq, supported the women's right to choose, and defended LGBTQ+ rights. She supported community farms and was a member of a CSA, Community Supported Agriculture, where she enjoyed volunteering. Cynthia was born into a Democratic family in 1951, where she developed her progressive principles and a deep commitment to public service. Cynthia went to public school, co-chaired the Racial Justice Committee at her college, and led several college groups to Washington to protest the Vietnam War. Her parents were active in politics. Her father, Ethan Allen Doty, served as a judge for over 40 years and was a leading figure in the Democratic reform movement. Her mother, Beatrice Graham Doty, was a Democratic state committeewoman. Her brothers, Ed Doty and Warren Doty, both served in elected positions in Pelham, New York, and Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts, respectively. I would be remiss if I did not also mention her beloved nephew, John Doty, who followed Cynthia's legacy of service to New Yorkers, having been my longest serving staff, that is being now my longest serving staff member, going on nearly 30 years. It is entirely fitting that she ended her political career as the Manhattan Deputy Chief Clerk at the New York City Board of Elections. In that role, she oversaw a vast operation of election officials responsible for processing ballots during several tumultuous changes in New York State election law. She oversaw early voting efforts that allow people to vote before Election Day, and efforts to ensure absentee or vote by mail ballots were processed properly during the COVID-19 pandemic. She helped ensure polling places were open and accessible, and people knew where and how to vote. In perhaps her last major election, she was involved in processing my own re-election in a contested primary in Manhattan last year. She was the consummate professional and made sure the election was carried out without controversy. Too often, we take for granted the work people like Cynthia do to help our communities, but we would be remiss if we did not honor and thank her and her team for a job well done. I enjoyed working with Cynthia over the past 30 to 40 years. Her contributions to her community knew no end. The people of Manhattan's Upper West Side will miss her deeply, but know that we will continue to carry out the work that she cared about so deeply. We will continue to work for social justice, environmental justice, women's rights, LGBTQ+ rights, and health care for all. I thank her for her years of service. May she rest in peace, and may her memory be a blessing to us all.
Thank you, Congressman. We are also now joined by former Congressman Charlie Rangel. He's going to say a few words.
All I know is that she made my political life so exciting. I would actually look forward to campaigning with her. I could be in a bus with her, on a sidewalk with her, and truly enjoy it. Inez Dickens and I always took pride in how we used to get the club vote out. But quite frankly, Inez, it never was fun. She made campaigns fun. And to be honest with you, there was this expression about having a velvet glove and a steel hand in it. With all of my charm, she wanted to know what the legislative agenda was. And how was she going to explain my vote on any given issue? And I would smile because that perennial smile that I normally would get would never be there when she was having the meetings. And while I would like to believe that she was protecting me against people in the club that were really not that pleasant to deal with, I always knew that she was so concerned. As I look and see this wonderful audience, I feel so proud that they allowed me to share, Lonnie, what we all felt about her, but never really had a chance to talk that much about her. It was almost that we looked forward to something going on so that we could come over and pass out some literature or to get on a loudspeaker or to be with her, or to laugh with her, to joke with her. And so I am honored because I do know that each and every one of you have such a beautiful story that you won't get a chance to speak about today. But that will be your story. And as I go to my seat, I do hope that you take the time that I take to get to my seat to think of your story, that you will not be able to use a mic, but I am confident that it's a beautiful story that would allow us, no matter what campaign we get involved in, we would wonder, how would Cynthia want us to handle it? Thank you, God, for allowing me to have such an exciting and wonderful political career that allowed me to get to know, to love, and to care for Cynthia Doty. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Congressman Rangel. We're now going to hear from Laura Doty Indigo, who has a reading. Please come forward.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura. I'm one of Cynthia's nieces. I wanted to share with you the lyrics of a song that my father and I listened to when Cynthia was in the hospital. They've stayed with me since the summer, so I thought I'd share them along with some reflections. The song is by Melanie D'Amour. It goes, "For you I sing, the light that brings the voices of the children." So Cynthia was a fun and kind aunt. She was young. She was 19 years old when I was born, and only 17 when my brother was born. So she had lots of energy. I remember running around at the beach with her and her dog Livy, playing games and laughing with her as a kid. And one of my favorite memories was going to shows with her. In her costume designing days, she got us tickets for whatever show she was working on and brought us backstage like true VIPs. I was so excited to go backstage to meet the actors and singers and walk through all the costumes and get lost in the clothing. I loved being in the show environment backstage and the excitement of Cynthia's world. She even made a costume for me for Halloween when I was 7 or 8. I had wanted to be a carrot, and Cynthia agreed to make me a carrot costume. It was very fancy, with orange foam all around me, very wide at the top and getting narrow down to my feet, with a green hat and very large ostrich feathers coming out of the top for greens. She was running behind and making it, but was so dedicated to getting it to me that she put it on a plane and flew it to me, so I got it on Martha's Vineyard in time for Halloween. The only glitch was I couldn't bend my knees, so I had a very memorable night of walking and rolling and no sitting. It was my most memorable Halloween ever. The next lyric goes, "For you I sing, the colors bright, dancing on the rainbow that moves across the darkened sky, the bridge that crosses over." The week that Cynthia was in the hospital was definitely a darkened sky, and it helps me to think that there was a rainbow that moved across it to help her cross over, giving her a bridge to whatever's next. And I imagine her dancing on that bridge with her smile and her laugh. It says, "To all the places we have been, To those whose love has carried us like the birds who rise on wings through the clouds and over. So we can imagine all the places she's been in her entire life, the trips with so many different people, the places in New York that she loved, Central Park, the ocean in New Jersey, and all the love of so many different communities that can help her soar like a bird and rise through the clouds and over. For you I sing the colors bright, dancing on the rainbow. For you I sing, for you I sing, for you I sing the rainbow. Please join me in a moment of silence for Cynthia. You might imagine her dancing on a rainbow, or as a bird through the clouds and over, or maybe laughing and doing something fun, just sending a moment to send her some love. Thank you.
Thank you. That lovely piece was performed by